This is a wild report as the Rockets are now projected to make a trade to fill out the last two spots of their roster. As we give you the details as to who this player is, what the deal would cost, and if he's a great fit for this team. All those details right here on Rockets Digest. Hello, everybody. Thanks so much again for joining us. I'm your host, Donovan Ricondo, and we are on our way to 4,500 subscribers. We're trying to hit that goal by the end of the week, so if you want to stay up to date and informed about your favorite H-Town team, go ahead, hit that subscribe button below. But as far as today's video, there is a newer article from House of Houston that says that the Rockets could make a trade to bolster their backcourt with a very elite defender. And that defender, that player, is Keon Ellis of the Sacramento Kings. As this author writes in his article, this is Cam Yolbalan of House of Houston saying, quote, "Enter Keon Ellis of the Sacramento Kings. The 25-year-old combo guard fits into what Houston is trying to do, providing size and athleticism to go with defensive versatility." Now, you're probably wondering, what would this trade package possibly look like? And he gave a mock trade as to what it would. Keon Ellis would come to the Houston Rockets, and in return, the Sacramento Kings would receive Jae'sean Tate and an unprotected 2028 first-round pick. So one pick, Jae'Sean Tate, in exchange for Keon Ellis for the Houston Rockets. And the author of this article gave some context as to why the Kings would want to make this deal and why the Houston Rockets would also want to make this deal in getting another elite defender to add to their roster. To start off, we'll start with the Kings. Ellis is entering the final year of his rookie scale contract that pays him $2.3 million for the 25-26 season. The former undrafted guard has yet to sign a contract extension with the Kings, and considering how crowded Sacramento's backcourt is with Malik Monk, Dennis Schroeder, Devin Carter, and Zach LaVine, he could find himself squeezed on the depth chart. Instead of giving a lucrative long-term contract to their fourth guard in the rotation, the Kings would be wise to get an unprotected first-round pick. Now, that makes a lot of sense for the Kings, right? You don't want to pay a guy that you are not necessarily going to use. So why not try to find players and assets that could, supplement that? These are his stats for the past few seasons. He has played about 17 20 minutes per game in its last two seasons in the NBA. The thing that stands out the most about his game is not only his defense, but his shooting. His three-point shot is there. He does have that in his arsenal. As many of you know, that is something that the Houston Rockets absolutely needed to improve upon heading into this next season. That three-point shot wasn't as good as it should have been. It wasn't as good as a championship team should be in that aspect. And so the author of this article, Sam Yolbalan, continues to write, quote, "For the Rockets, Ellis doesn't solve their shot creation issue, but adds a 3-and-D guard who has hit 42.9% of his threes in his NBA career. He is a defensive playmaker who can guard multiple positions, a profile Ime Udoka absolutely loves. Add in the floor spacing element on the offensive end, the Rockets would be foolish not to at least try to poach him for the Rockets." And that is a key sentence at the end there. At least try to poach him from the Kings, rather. Because it's quite the player that Ime Udoka is looking for. Those guys that can hit the three and that can play defense. The Houston Rockets are a team that prides itself on its defense. That is the reason why this team went all the way to this 2 seed in the playoffs last year. Now, a little bit of more context to this deal, right? This trade cannot yet be executed until October due to the fact that Tate just signed a new deal with the Rockets this summer, as he is part of this projected trade between the two teams. However, it can still go through before the start of the season, making it an attractive option for the Rockets. So this is a deal that's going to require some patience if it ever comes to fruition. Tate offers a lot of good things he can bring to this team. We already have our KD, we already have our Amon Thompson, we already have our Alperen Şengün. He just adds further depth, further defense, and three-point shooting that can help this team big time throughout the regular season and especially in the playoffs. However, there is a couple of issues I personally have with this trade. I want to take you guys to this right here. These are our draft assets for the next, I'd say, 5 years. I think that goes up to 2030. The thing that concerns me with making a trade like this is that it includes that 2028 unprotected first-round pick in this deal. And when I think about this trade, and I think about the year 2028, I see that the Rockets are pretty much at the end of their tenure with KD, right? I see the Rockets in a space where they are not in a rebuild mode. I don't think this team will be in a rebuild in 3 years by any means necessary, but they're going to have to find players to supplement KD, right? I feel like after 3 years, by 2028, KD will no longer be in the NBA, according to what we've gathered so far about him. Nothing confirmed yet, but just what we've gathered, he's probably not going to be playing for much longer. And so to give up a first-round pick around that time span of when there's a little bit of questions and uncertainty, to me, is not exactly something I would go for, right? I do think a second-round pick is something that I would be more inclined to make that trade, or maybe even something sooner, like in next year's draft, or a little bit later in 2030, 2029. But I feel like 2028 is a prime spot for the Rockets to have their first-round pick to get a player that is not going to become KD, but still an offensive juggernaut coming out of college that can help this team in the next few years. And so that is the one thing that concerns me. Jae'Sean Tate, a great player, we just signed him to a new deal, so that's why this deal wouldn't take place until at least October, but still someone willing to give up for a guy like Keon Ellis, who has proved to be a really solid player in the minutes he has played. He was averaging 8 points last year, solid off the bench numbers for a guy like him. I think the year before that he was somewhere around 4, and so he's slowly improving. He's a role player for sure in this league, and so it's going to be a very interesting thing. I do think, as Cam from House of Houston pointed out, that the Rockets would be foolish to not at least try it, right? Heading into this offseason, you wanted three-point shooters. You wanted better defenders. And this is a guy who has both of those things. He does both of those things very, very well. And for the Kings, right, there's no reason for them to have as many guards on their team when you consider Malik Monk, Zach LaVine, all those guys that are already on their roster. It makes sense for them to deal him away. So I see this trade, and I see that it's a very realistic trade. It's something that could happen because it would benefit both sides. The Kings not wanting to sign him to a lucrative deal, or the Rockets needing to fill out those last two roster spots on their roster. And why not go for a guy that can help the backcourt? This is a backcourt that has a lot of questions, right? Of course, you have Fred VanVleet, and of course, you have Reed Shepherd, who is his backup, who Rafael Stone said he's just going to have to be good for us next year. And while that is true, right, obviously he's going to have to be good for us next year. Fingers crossed, right? But mistakes happen. I mean, he's still a second-year player. He's still learning the ropes. He is still trying to understand who he is as a player. So it is good to have more guys in the backcourt that you see also have potential, that you see can also contribute to this team in a variety of ways. Not only can they do that, but again, they can shoot and they can play defense. And if Ime Udoka likes anything in his players, is that they can shoot and play defense. So I want to stress, I do think this is a very valuable player to add to the team. However, this deal is something that I am not exactly high about. I do not think a first-round pick in 2028, a very crucial year for the Rockets in terms of an offseason, considering KD and him possibly retiring after year 3, is not something this team should necessarily go for. Right? I do think something sooner or something later, but nowhere in that 2028 time slot do I think is a move that the Rockets should make. And if it is, probably a second-round pick is something that I would lean more towards, or whether that would be 2 second-round picks, 3 second-round picks. Three might be too much, but maybe like 2 second-round picks to make up for the one is something to me that is more of a deal I would like to make. Because I would love to have and obtain that first-round pick in 3 years when there will be a lot of questions surrounding these guys and these rosters as contracts are kind of staggered that way. And so, in my opinion, I would say keep the pick. I would say no to this specific trade, but to eventually trade for a guy like Keon Ellis would make a lot of sense. So that's where I want to bring it back to you guys. Let me know in the comments. Do you think Keon Ellis is a player that we should go for? And is this specific trade, Jae'Sean Tate and an unprotected first-round pick in 2028, something that you guys feel is a good deal to make for Keon Ellis? And if not, let me know your revisions to it as well. And with that, that wraps up this video of Rockets Digest. Stay tuned. We got so many more videos for you guys as we are on our way to 4,500 subscribers. We appreciate you. All the subscribers that are continuing to watch, thank you very, very much. We appreciate you as you guys are some awesome Rockets fans, and we're glad to keep bringing these videos to all of you guys. So with that, I'll see you on the next one. I've been your host, Donovan Ricondo. Adios.